I've been sitting with this set for over a year, and I still can't believe that it's sitting in front of me. I never thought in a million years that LEGO would make a UCS Jango Fett Slave 1. Sure, I thought we'd get another playset version, but a UCS Jango Fett Slave 1? And not even on an anniversary year of Attack of the Clones, came out last year, 2025. Definitely overdue for this review. I kept putting it off, but we're finally doing it. And not only did they release that last year, they also released a playset version as well. Once again, just kind of bizarre to me to do that at the same time. I was so prepared that they weren't going to do it, that I was going to turn my Boba Fett UCS Slave 1 into a Jango Fett version. A lot of people have done it online. You can order all the parts off of Bricklink, and there's lists you can find to do it. But LEGO saved that heresy from happening, and I held out for the rumors to be true. And we're going to talk about how they delivered today, finally, in this review of the Jango Fett Slave 1 UCS version, or as LEGO has decided to call it, Jango Fett Starship, or online, Jango Fett's Firespray-Class Starship. We won't go into that other than that I will be modifying my plaque to save Slave 1. But, hey, at least they threw the Firespray part in there. Cool little reference to, of course, the actual model of the ship. That I'm sure is in more than just lore of the Jango Fett video game. But that is what I know Firespray from. I'm here to reclaim my title of being the #1 Jango Fett fan on YouTube just for today and talk about the set, compare it to its predecessor, and also the UCS Boba Fett Slave 1, and my first experience of getting a gift with purchase for Star Wars Day, since that is when the set technically came out, unless you were like a member and you can like pre-order or whatever, which came with the Camino training facility, probably the only gift with purchase set I've ever cared about, and also the keychain that the UCS Slave 1 came with. So without further ado, let's dive into all of it. So first off, the gift with purchase, the Camino training facility. And I wish I had a lot to say about this one, but I really don't. I think they did a good job of combining, Camino as we know it from obviously Attack of the Clones and the Clone Wars. So also, we have the turret, which is more reminiscent of the rookies' training in the Clone Wars TV show. And also, of course, we have the pod here that is used to, I guess, monitor the clones' training that we see flying around in Attack of the Clones. It was a fun little build. You can stick a clone in there, or I guess if you had a Kaminoan, you could put one in there. One quick little note, it is accurate how the engines on the side kind of have that unfinished look on the front. I mean, there's like a vent, which would have been nice to have a reverse piece to kind of do that. But alas, they left it open. It's a gift with purchase, so it's kind of a quicker build, I feel like. So I just went ahead and reversed the engines because I thought it looked nicer. I don't think it's as accurate, but yeah. And of course, lastly, we have the little weapon stand that it comes with. Nice little build, kind of using snot technique, reversing it halfway through so we can have the same piece to finish it on both ends of the gun rack. So that's pretty nice. It comes with 2 longer blasters, 1 medium-sized blaster, and 1 smaller pistol blaster. It also comes with only one black candle piece, but you can use that to turn one of the longer or medium blasters into looking more like a DC-15. So that's nice to have at least one of those included with it. The minifigures look great. They look really sharp with the red uniforms and look pretty accurate to the films, to my understanding. The head is obviously a just regular clone trooper head. We've had that for a couple years now, but works out perfectly here. And then with the black hair piece, same one for the Jango Fett in the set. There's back printing with wrinkles, as well as dual molded legs with the red on top and the black on the bottom for the boots. And I will admit, I was a bit surprised that LEGO went through the effort of having those details on there, but I'm happy they did, and it kind of makes sense as to my understanding. With these gift of purchase sets, they kind of do special stuff like that sometimes. So, glad that they really went all out on the detail for these cadets. And I'm excited to one day kind of make a smaller Camino mock with a proper large landing pad for the UCS Slave 1. And maybe a small little indoor section, training section that utilizes these cadets, and maybe the pod floating, and kind of a little training area for them to practice against the turret. But that pretty much summarizes up my feelings on the Camino training facility. And now we can go ahead and move on to the main set. And it's finally time to talk about it. The Jango Fett minifigure for this set. So I simultaneously have not that much to say about this figure and a ton to say about this minifigure. In terms of making it short and sweet, for a tiny little Lego guy you're barely gonna look that closely at, he looks great. We finally have a Jango Fett with arm printing, and it looks great, with the arm pads and the flamethrower. The pants also look great, with the belt section now technically being more accurate, with there not being browned around the front and the belt only sitting on the torso, which, if you look at pictures of him, is technically how it actually looks like. The dark gray, you could say is technically more accurate or less accurate. It's kind of up to interpretation, and it still looks really good for the torso. The jetpack, they don't do printing on jetpacks, so you could kind of say the same thing, and since the torso is dark gray, they probably just wanted it to match the color of the torso, so that's why it is gunmetal gray. Obviously the printing on the head, it looks very nice. We got the scars there. It really looks like Tamora Morrison now, and having the angry face, is very Lego-esque, and it looks really cool. So we have the calm and collected face and the angry face. Both look very nice, and I am just really happy that we finally have a Jango Fett that is detailed like this. Now, if we want to get more into the Lego Star Wars fan mindset, I can obviously nitpick this in a ton of ways, and I'm sure it's what you're here for, really. So let's go ahead and do it. So I'm obviously going to be comparing it to what I have grown most used to, which is the previous version from the Corporate Alliance Tank Droid set, where the first redesign happened. And then there was another one technically in between in the UCS Obi-Wan Starfighter ship set, that came with like the hyperspace ring, but I'm pretty sure, to my understanding, it's just the head was changed to be like laughing or something. I can't remember. Or angry. And it still goes for quite expensive, which I don't really understand, but I digress. So I prefer the torso, the color of the torso from the previous version compared to the new one. I agree that the new one is more accurate for the color, but I still kind of like the just regular gray on the original torso more. In terms of the actual design of the print on the new one versus the old one, I like both of them. I guess I kind of like the one on the new one a bit better. Kind of tightens it up a bit, and fits more of the design language of what Lego has been doing a lot with not just Lego Star Wars, but kind of all of their sets, where they're not trying to make it look accurate or cartoony. I guess it's like this kind of like specific Lego art style for the printing. I've noticed them doing that. We've seen it with the Clone Troopers, and I know a lot of people have strong feelings about it, and I think I don't really dislike it. I'm going to be honest. So that kind of leads us into talking about the legs as well. I obviously, once again, like the addition of the boot printing or the foot printing on the new one. And even though the belt along the brown printing along the belt on the old one is less accurate, I kind of still prefer it to the printing on the new one. I just think it looks a little like naked without it now, seeing it side by side. In terms of the design, once again, I like both of them. It's really hard to tell here. Like the knee pads on the original, like look a bit more like accurate, but in terms of like the sizing, it's technically more accurate like on the new one. So, I kind of like both of them. I guess I kind of prefer the new one's leg printing, other than not having the brown belt across. And of course, the one before did not have arm printing, so I'm happy to see the arm printing on the UCS version. That would be crazy if they didn't do it. We finally have a version that has it now, so I'm happy to see it. In terms of the jetpack, I agree they should have done a silver jetpack for the new version. I'm looking at my new UCS version with the silver jetpack on right now, and I do think it just looks better than the gunmetal gray jetpack. So I dislike that they went with that choice. I think that part of it is they try to, when it comes to molds and using colors, they try to use the same color as much as possible. So I'm assuming gunmetal has been molded in jetpacks more recently, so they want to stick with that. And I don't know if there are any minifigs that even are getting silver jetpacks right now. I get that they went with the gunmetal possibly to just match the coloring, but I don't know. I think it looks better with the silver. And yeah, that finally brings us to the helmet. And this is where I get kind of the most annoyingly nitpicky. So I totally understand if you want to skip forward, but why can they just not get this thing right? Okay, and I don't. You might be like, "What are you talking about?" Well, first off, at least with mine, there's kind of the printing doesn't really go all the way down to the bottom of the helmet in the front, and that's kind of annoying. I feel like that's just like a tiny bit of a misprint, and I bet if I even contacted them, they might even send me a new one. I've seen that not on like all of them. I think that's a little bit specific to mine. So, which is whatever. What actually pisses me off, this is so dumb, is the top of the helmet, where the color cuts off above the visor. So for the mold of Mandalorian helmets, there is a actual dip at the top above where the visor is, and the actual mold. It lines up with the line in the back. And on my 2013 Jango Fett, that color reached outside of the mold, the blue did. You know, I didn't really love it at the time. I thought it looked a little off, but I kind of was like, that's, it's fine. There's the black lines above it, so that looks cool. There's enough detail there, I can get over it. Over 10 years later, I'm looking at this new Jango Fett, and the color is going above the visor on the physical dip, and it's lining up the black lines even better than the one I have from 2013. But there's a little bit of overlap there in terms of where the color is going in. It's literally printing on little tiny plastic pieces, so I can't be that particular. Except the Lego Boba Fett minifigure I have from his 2015 UCS set. His printing looks immaculate. There's red above the visor before the physical dip, and then they do a silver line. So why couldn't we get the blue before the visor goes off? Like, why does the blue have to be above the physical dip? Why does the visor need to cut off at the top of that physical dip? Just have it cut off before then and put the color line in between there. The Boba Fett looks so much sharper because of that. It looks so much cleaner. And I don't care which one's more accurate. I care what is going to look the nicest, which looks the best. So I just don't understand why they did it again for the 2025 Lego Jango Fett. Now, you might be saying, well, they got it right on the Boba Fett, maybe just with, that particular color set and the printing there, they got it right that time, and it's hard to do with Jango Fett or blue or something, I don't know. And this is even crazier. If we pull out a original Mandalorian from the Mandalorian Battle Pack in 2011, they got the blue right above the visor before the physical dip on it. I used to make custom Jango Fetts with these Mandalorian minifigs from this battle pack, and it has a huge blue gap above the visor, which I prefer to having this janky printing above the physical dip where it kind of like cuts off and like is sloped, because it just is harder to print within that crevice there. So yeah, I just don't get how literally figures the original prints on these Mandalorian helmets, because the 2010 Boba Fett, the first minifig to have this helmet, has the printing look correct as well. So literally back in 2010, they were printing the color right, and then 2013 and onwards, they just started, I don't know, messing it up. And this isn't just my minifig. If you look up all the new Jango Fetts, the blue line goes above the physical dip. And I know this is such a stupid hill to die on, but it's just like, it's kind of the only problem that I actually had, other than, the head not really being accurate to Tamora Morrison. But it's kind of really the only problem I had with the previous version of Jango Fett was that. Of course, also that, getting arm printing as well. It's not like, clearly, as I started out talking about the minifig, it's a little plastic guy. So it's like, if the printing wasn't correct on the other Mandalorian minifigs, I wouldn't care at all. It's only the fact that it is just bothers me. Anyway, he's really cool. comes with the typical pistols that they've given him for a while, which is was originally used as gas hoses for octane gas tanks. I don't know what other pistol they would give him, so I'm unless they obviously made a new mold, which they aren't going to do, and I don't expect them to. That's what custom blasters are for, and so you can find those, and they look pretty cool. To round off talking about him, I forgot to mention as well. I love the head printing. The serious face I really like, but instead of the angry face, I would have preferred we get a face with a headset on it. Or, or if the serious face had the headset and the angry face didn't, fine, whatever. So that when we took his helmet off and put the hairpiece on, we could have had him in the ship with the headset. I love the balaclava printed head on the original 2002 Jango Fett. It's iconic, and it wears off kind of easily because it's literally a head printed on black. But I don't think I would have wanted that here. I do enjoy the dual-sided head printing, so obviously we couldn't have the whole head be black or half of it be black. That would just be weird. So I think a good compromise would have been to just print a headset on it, just like, Obi-Wan gets a headset printed on him sometimes for when he's in his starfighter. I think that would have been easy, and I don't really understand why they didn't do that for him. And obviously, I think the hairpiece looks great. But that pretty much finally rounds off talking about Jango Fett. Finally, time to talk about the Boba Fett minifigure. So here we have young Boba. There's been only 3 other iterations of him before. Obviously the original one from the 2002 Slave 1, which I also have. People had a lot to say about him, and I think he looks pretty good. I don't have a ton to say about him. I like the face printing. He has kind of this more frowning face, which is kind of more reminiscent of when Obi-Wan's in the apartment, and then this smiling kind of smirk face, which is kind of, when he's in the ship with Jango. I think the face printing looks way better than the previous versions. Not only is the skin color obviously more accurate, but like the face printing on the previous version is just cartoonishly evil. It's just kind of ridiculous. Very Lego in that way, but like, come on. Like, this is a bit more normal, I think. The only thing that I think should be changed is his belt is not brown. If you look at pictures in the movie, it's that dark blue or black color, which they did for the 2017 version. So I don't really understand why they switched back to brown, but whatever. Still looks pretty good. And his hairpiece, also, I saw people say a lot about the hairpiece. I think it looks fine. I don't know. The previous hairpiece I didn't like really, and this one is closer, I feel, but not quite there. Some people I think were showing other hair pieces that haven't been used for him yet, that might be better. I forgot what they were though, so but I think this hairpiece looks the closest to how it looks in the movie so far, at least for what we've gotten for the young Boba minifigs. So can't say too much else about him. He looks like young Boba. And that finishes off talking about the minifigs. So to finally talk about the set itself. The instruction manual is really cool, has some cool concept art of the ship that I have never seen before, and even kind of a cool photo shoot there with like a villain pose photo shoot, which I had also never seen. So that was kind of cool. And it also includes this diagram that I've looked at many times online of Jango Fett's Slave 1. And you really get the sense, looking at that, And seeing that Jango Fett doesn't have, the black balaclava head and such, that this set is very much its own thing. And what I mean by that is it's not the original 2002 Jango Fett Slave 1 play set made into a UCS set, and it's not the Boba Fett UCS Slave 1 made into a Jango Fett UCS Slave 1. It is kind of its own thing from the ground up, as in we love the ship from Attack of the Clones. We're going to try to make an Ultimate Collector's set based off of Attack of the Clones, not really any of the previous Lego sets, if that makes sense. That's just kind of the vibe that I got once I finished putting this thing all together. Speaking of which, the building experience was pretty good. And I say that as someone who, and this is really hard for me to admit, I actually never really get super excited about specifically the build process of a Lego set. I really, really like the result of building it. And so for me to say that I enjoyed the build process instead of it being annoying, is, I think, kind of high praise for this set. And also, I say that as someone who really didn't enjoy building the Boba Fett UCS Slave 1. I'm not going to try to say that their build processes are that much different. There's still kind of a very large amount of a technicore to the Slave 1, as you see here in the time lapse, but it just felt a bit more satisfying to put together. I feel like, at least based on my memory, it's literally been 10 years since I've built the Boba Fett Slave 1, so I just enjoyed when you would build a segment, seeing how it fit together into the whole ship maybe a bit more. I can't say for sure. Maybe the credit goes to just the designers who make the instruction manuals upping their game over the past couple years and making the experience less frustrating. But I had a pretty good time putting it together. But the first feature I wanted to look at here was the kind of main centerpiece of the Slave 1, which is the cockpit. The windshield piece has been made larger to accommodate this very large cockpit, and those little slopes there are stickers, I should note, so it's probably one of the more nerve-wracking sticker placements. But once you take it off, you are greeted by the two levels, the top one of which slides right out. And we'll come back to that, but once we slide that out, we gain access to this little hatch that you can easily pull out, where it has a little blue crystal, which I originally, I will admit, thought was a reference to the blue kind of hyperdrive crystal thing, which is in the original Jango Fett Slave 1. But once I looked at it more, and I think it might even say this in the build instructions, it is a lot more obviously a little Bacta tank for Jango Fett to heal off of. And as we know from the Boba Fett show, Boba Fett loves his Bacta. So it also has two little clips for his guns, so you can put his gun there, and also a stud for his jetpack to latch onto. And once you put the jetpack and guns in there and put the hatch back in place, it sits really nicely in there and nothing rattles around or anything like that. The only thing that I found interesting is it seems like you would also put his helmet there. And there actually is not a spot for his helmet there. And there is no spot to hang his helmet, or I guess I should say attach his helmet for storage in the entire set, which is interesting. It is a UCS set, so I'm not super surprised, but it's just interesting that they went through the trouble of doing it for the guns and the jetpack and not the helmet. So what I've been doing is just kind of hanging his helmet on the third chair in the back. But yeah, coming back to the main sitting area for the cockpit, it looks extremely accurate. I love the kind of sloped shield in the front. It looks very much like it does in the movie when you're watching it. Also, that like red dot in the front as well. Also, like I've seen, Attack of the Clones the most out of any Star Wars movie, even though I will admit it is the worst, I should say, complete saga Star Wars movie. So episodes 1 through 6. But, as a kid, it was my favorite, and it is, a lot of ways my favorite because Jango Fett, obviously. So, seeing that red dot there, it's just like, yep, I've seen that. And even the UI on the screens, I'm just so happy with how they got that right on the stickers. Yes, those are stickers for the screens. I think those are some of the lesser offensive stickers on the set, because they do look pretty good, I'll admit, and it's a square, so it's not as tedious as some of the other stickers are in the set. And I just love how you can easily put Boba Fett in the back there, and like I said, the helmet on the other chair for a spot to have it. And yeah, there's also 2 seats below. Going back to the diagram, obviously in the diagram we literally see like cells. So I understand that you can't really fit that into the set. There's got to be some technique somewhere to hold this whole thing up. And I think the reason why they really added all the detail into that cockpit for the, because that is the only interior you can fit in this thing. So just like the diagram, those 2 seats are there below the main cockpit, and you could, if you had a prisoner, I guess, put them there if they were knocked out or something. You can kind of edit your story to work that way, maybe. So I'll let that slide there for not including little jail cells somehow that like pop out or something, because the rest of the detail on the cockpit looks great. So A+ there. It is my favorite part of the set, obviously, by far, and it makes sense they put the most work into it because it is the part you see the most. So yeah. To kind of zoom out here, we can get a quick look just at the overall shape and detail of the ship, and I just think they really nailed the shape in particular of how the Slave One looks in Attack of the Clones specifically. The base is a lot more bulbous, I guess you could say, for a lack of a better word, but I will say that LEGO really nailed the sloping with this set, and how you build those pieces on the side, and you connect them instead of them being built up. They're built as side pieces and then attached, kind of studs not on top, almost like. But yeah, if we kind of pan down here on the outside of the ship, we can get a look at the rotating heavy turrets. And yeah, these look good. They look very much like they do, in the movie, where they're not actually that big. The way they went about, doing the detail, kind of having it look a bit more particular, with it being smaller, so they had to use the lightsaber hilts. It works fine. Really easy to kind of accidentally knock them off compared to the previous Boba Fett Slave One, but they look good, so I'm pretty happy with that. Taking a look at the wings here, the detail looks great, and they obviously rotate together as they are attached. Obviously, they are not attached to the cockpit like a playset. As we see in Attack of the Clones, the cockpit doesn't rotate. So the cockpit stays in static position, which is fine. By the way, yeah, the turrets rotate like, that enough degrees that you would want so you can replicate how, they rotate in Attack of the Clones. And of course we have the two little turrets on the side, which is actually the turrets that are used to shoot at Obi-Wan's ship. We don't see the larger blaster cannons on the bottom be used to shoot at Obi-Wan's ship, which what I always thought was an interesting choice. But if we move around to the back here, we see great detailing of the engines, using that yellow look that we see in the movie, which is cool. Really love the flat tiles they did around the top part of the engine there. And we get one of the cooler functionalities of the set, which is if we move these panels to the side here, they don't slide, but you can just pick them up and then attach them again to open them up as doors to the seismic charge bay, which is awesome to have, as everyone loves the seismic charge sound. It's a very iconic part of Jango Fett Slave 1, and we can find one seismic charge in there that you can pull out and see and, drop to blow up a ship or whatever. If you have Obi-Wan's Starfighter set. I will say that all of the detail on here of the lights of the seismic charge are stickers, which I really hate because it is very nerve-wracking to place the stickers next to each other. I believe there is 2 on each of those sides there, so there's 4 plus, of course, the middle one, so 5 stickers on that seismic charge there. And yeah, very nerve-wracking to attach. I was pretty happy with how I got them on there to match the other side. But yeah, really wish those were printed. If the center circle piece had to be a sticker, I can live with that. But man, those side parts of the seismic charge, really wish those were printed. But yeah. The last function we can look at here is the door and the ramp that leads up to it, which I will admit is kind of confusing to me. All it does is if you press down on the ramp, it opens up the door, and I guess that's kind of cool. Very much a playset kind of feature, it feels like. And I think the reason they did this is because to have Jango Fett stand there at full height with his rangefinder, you have to have the ramp down for it to work. And I will admit it's kind of funny, the clearance there, because he bangs his head as he walks in, which is of course a reference to Stormtrooper hitting his head on the door in A New Hope. Haha, very funny. But yeah, kind of interesting they went with this. It's cool to have, I guess, so that he can stand there, but would have been kind of nice to just have it be so that he can stand there without the ramp being pressed down. If we could have just worked out the clearance there, but whatever. It's possible the ramp also goes up and down in the movie or in some type of media. I don't actually know, and you can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about this, but as you see, once we put the ramp up, the rangefinder obviously gets knocked down, so he kind of fits there with the ramp up, but yeah, and you can kind of walk into the ship too. So yeah, that is a function. It's there. I kind of would have been fine if it was just the door that opened and closes, but I guess pressing down on the ramp makes that door opening a lot easier to reach. So yeah. Also, if you're planning on storing a minifigure there, unfortunately, you can't close the door with it closed. So if you wanted to replicate Han Solo being in carbonite there, or for some reason, if you had that, fortunately, can't really do that. So yeah. that kind of finishes up talking about the ship itself. So now we can move on to talking about the stand. It is, yeah, it's very sturdy. It's pretty clear where you attach his ship onto it. Um, I will say maybe I've gotten really used to attaching Boba Fett's UCS Slave One to his stand, so I feel like it's a bit kind of harder to find on Jango Fett's than Boba Fett's, but there's a lot more technic to Jango Fett's, so it's less shaky. And of course, the plaque says Jango Fett Starship. And I guess this is where we will start my comparison proper to Boba Fett's UCS Slave One. And we can see that there's little vents on his stand, which I kind of wish the Jango Fett one had. It's really just a tiny touch of detail, extra detail that I liked to see. And Jango Fett doesn't have it, so it's whatever. It's really nitpicky. If we move on to Boba Fett's cockpit here, you can see that it uses Technic to have the windshield attached. And while that is very secure, I prefer the stud attachment technique they went with on Jango Fett's version. It's just a lot easier to take on and off, and since it's a set that really sits on a stand mainly, I think that's acceptable. I feel like it is accurately represented to kind of the little amount we see of Boba Fett's cockpit in like Empire Strikes Back and such. So, you know, we see computers on the side, more generic panels, which, you know, was fine. I felt like when the set came out, and of course the cockpit rotates around, which I feel like is kind of also kind of more like Boba Fett's Slave One. So I liked that function in this set and how the cockpit is smaller, because that is just kind of what we see from the movie. So I never really like thought it needed to be like Jango Fett's cockpit. I just wanted somehow when the set came out to have like jail cells below, just like the diagram. That was kind of what I wanted to see. I don't know how they would have fitted in, like I said before. So really, this is kind of all they could have done. And there's also obviously the place where he stores his gun on the side there. Now, it is really interesting that Boba Fett's UCS Slave One has a hatch that you can pull out here with the iconic lock-on missile in it that you can even detach and, you know, fly around if you wanted to. And I don't really understand why Jango Fett's UCS Slave One did not get this functionality, because you can do it on both sides of Boba Fett's Slave One, and it looks pretty cool when it's open. There's also like the little turret gun there on the side, so definitely it's the only thing that I'm missing from the new Jango Fett UCS Slave One compared to the Boba Fett one that I wish that it had. So that's a big plus for the Boba Fett version, but I thought I'd just point that out, especially since it is something that we see that Jango Fett uses that, you know, obviously was not shown when Boba Fett is using his ship. I think the detailing on the back of Boba Fett's Slave One looks great. You know, it has those blue engines there. And I don't know, I really wouldn't say that like it's worse. They're both kind of cool in their own way, so that's really all I have to say about that. And I feel like the turrets also fit Boba Fett's Slave One more than how they are in Jango Fett's Slave One and Attack of the Clones, so I like the detail there as well. This is obviously a part that the Boba Fett Slave One did, I think, a bit better as well, is the height clearance here, so you can place a minifig standing there. And probably the reason why is because of this functionality of putting Han Solo Carbonite into the Slave One, which is, you know, a main memory of Boba Fett's Slave One. So of course they would make that functionality be nice.
And it is. You just attach them there, close the door. It's very satisfying. That is one other thing that I think that this set did better. But yeah, I think both sets are great in their own way, and I think in particular they set out to be what they are in the movies that they're in. The Jango Fett Slave One just really nails how it is in Attack of the Clones, and I think Boba Fett's UCS Slave One really nails how you remember Boba Fett's Slave One from Empire Strikes Back. That iconic shot of it sitting on the platform in Cloud City. It really nails that aesthetic. They both nail their aesthetics. And to mention it one more time, I think I do prefer the oval shape of Boba Fett's Slave One in general. But I will admit, I just love the sloping techniques that are utilized on the new Jango Fett UCS Slave One more. But with that, I think it's time for the conclusion of the video.
So in conclusion, I'm pretty happy with LEGO Jango Fett's Firespray-Class Starship Ultimate Collector's Edition set. Oh my god. The Slave One. I'm very happy with the Slave One. It's very interesting how it is kind of a true, its own thing, kind of almost very based off of the diagrams that they have in the booklet, which is cool. I think $300, fair price for the set, especially with how expensive LEGO is getting in 2026 and the type of sets we are getting. Would have loved to see $270, would have been better. $300, as the number one Jango Fett fan on YouTube, I was just happy not to have to pay more for this. Curious if I'm overreacting about the printing on Jango Fett's helmet, or if you think I'm justified in my complaints. There's both ends of the spectrum, with LEGO Star Wars. I just think after all this time, and it being basically the same Jango Fett helmet, that we could get it just right. But that's just me. I'm pretty happy with how it is, regardless. Really cool gift with purchase. Probably the coolest gift of purchase I'm ever going to be interested in. Perfect that it came with this, and for Star Wars Day being able to order it at the same time. Really wish this keychain would have held up better, but we get things to use them. I'm someone who would buy nice shoes and then wear them. I would buy an action figure and take it out of the box. If you give me a keychain, it's going to go in my pocket and it's going to get rattled around with a bunch of keys. So that's come on, LEGO. Another note, if every part could be printed, we would obviously take that as LEGO fans. I understand that some things are expensive to get printed. Some pieces are expensive to get printed. But some of the smaller stuff here, it just seems kind of or the more complex, more risky areas to put a sticker, where it's super easy to mess up. It's just, would nice to be see printing. That's why I went ahead and picked up Solid Brick Studios' printed piece replacement pack. He did one for the set here, and fast forwarding, here's what that looks like, as well as some replacement blasters for Jango Fett and dual molded legs for young Boba that it comes with. So pretty neat. Not super expensive for it being, done by, him and his solo store. So not sponsored. Just want to do a shout out to David and Solid Brick Studios. I've been watching his channel since I started watching YouTube. So I thought I'd just bring that up. Thank you so much for watching my first LEGO set review in 11 years. Oh my god.
Hey everybody, it's Lego My Jango here, and I thought it was time for another Lego Star Wars set review.
I wanted to review the Boba Fett Slave One when I got that, when it came out for Christmas. But hopefully talking about it in this review kind of makes up for it for me, and for you as well. Anyone who is still watching from the early days. That's pretty much it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching my review. And there definitely won't be any more Lego set reviews coming soon from me, but this one definitely won't be my last. Want to say bye, Bibble? Yeah, say bye, Bibble. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.